Gonna throw that other sunglasses filter on and see what I get out of this one.
I like the darker one.
Okay. I'll mention in these research vids. I'll message you too, Patrick. But I tried to text you back. I got your text message, so it wouldn't let me respond back. It said SMS code 50 or whatever, which I'm assuming means it's too long of a distance and it won't let me go through. So I don't know. It's just cheap cell phone. I just use those prepaid cards, and I have one of those 1990s Obama's type cell phones. It's not from Obama. It's my own, but it's old. It's fucking old. So yeah, I'll respond to a lot of the things that we talked about in your message when I get back behind the computer. I'll do it in video form on most of it, and then if you got anything private or personal you want to talk about, just you have my phone number. I'm on Skype. I have a Skype account I set up right before the end of the Tripping Sponge series. That time that you were talking to Rick by Skype, I went that night and tried to set it up, and I was successful at it, but I just never used it. So I have to learn how to use Skype, which doesn't look very hard. But and then I'll look into that other one you talked about, just where we can shoot the shit on a private level too. And that goes for everybody. That's why I want to give out my phone number. If anybody out there has anything that they don't want to have out there in the public knowing about it or whatever, I'm fine with that. No one's going to guess that I'm talking about any given situation when I'm talking. I'm going to use myself as an example, more or less most of the time that I'm going through this process with the M&Ms. And I do. Oh, that was another thing too. Is I do still get to keep the abbreviations for them as the M&Ms. I like the abbreviation for electromagnetic nanomite M&Ms. So I get to keep that. And Biometellus. Yeah, I like it. Biometellus, but spell it. I like it. I think I'm gonna like it more and more. So, no, it was gonna be might. How was I pronouncing it now? Mitellus, but maybe by my lies is better. So maybe it's but I guess it is when it's bio. So it's bio Mitellus. Oh man, buy all the tell my lies. Buy all the tell lies. I love it. So the Biotellus, because I'm spelling it Mitelies. So it's like Metellus. I love it. I didn't even recognize that earlier when I was making up the word Metellus. So anyways, Metellus, Biometellus, Electrometellus, and electromagnetic nanometellus is going to be the new terminology. And as you can see, it's going to take me a few minutes to get used to it because I'm changing all the terminology. And this is serious shit, man. This is really serious shit. That's why I'm changing it in the first place, is because the word mites, the word mites is going to scare too many people away. People's mirror neuron manipulator. Now this is, stay with me here for a second. You have a mirror neuron, the empathy neuron. It protects yourself, and it protects you. It's a protection mechanism. You don't want to be hurt. You don't want to be hurt all the time. Not physically, but I mean it actually works with your physical too, believe it or not. It does work with your physical. If you smash your hand, you can bypass that neurological system of the pain. And some people know how to do this. Reflexology, if you study reflexology is the same fucking thing I'm talking about. It's you can handle and work that mirror neuron in a lot of different ways. Now that's a physical pain you can get rid of by using pressure points around your body, usually in your hand or your feet is usually the best ones, but they're all over the place, and you use those pressure points in order to heal that pain. Okay, same thing. So you can use your mind over matter in order. That's the way they claim it is, but it's really the other way around. Unfortunately, everything's fucking twisted and lied about. So you're doing the same thing. By me changing this terminology, I'm taking away anyone's ability or need to even lie to themselves. Okay? So when you hear the word might, you might say to yourself, or you may say to yourself, I gotta remember to change that terminology. I keep saying might do this and might do that, and then it sounds like I'm talking about might the nano might. So what I'm trying to get people to do by doing this, by changing the wording, by changing the terminology in a very clever way, easy to remember, just as easy to put together, and everybody that's listening to me will know what I'm talking about. Once I get a hold of using this all on my own and everything, and not keep fucking it up, then it'll go faster, it'll get better, okay? And then seeing it spelled also is going to be important to this. When you hear the word might, no one's going to want to admit to them. No one wants to talk about them. Lice, even, people don't want to talk about, don't really want to admit to them. Fleas are a little easier because they relate them to pets and don't want to really admit to them being on their own body whenever they get hit by fleas. They're all related to the mites anyways. The fleas and the ticks and the lice and everything like that, they're all related. That's why I'm going back 30 some odd years and longer. I'm going all the way back in my history to show you where this mite issue started, and I never knew about it. I've only been figuring this out the last couple of years, but as I went along, all those things that I never had answers for, I now have answers for. When I was picking pickles down at the fucking pickle farm, cucumber farm, whatever, no, it's a pickle farm, for my aunt's boyfriend, or short-lived husband, whatever he was, I remember those days, man. And when you reached over and picked those pickles with your hands, you'd feel them in your back and in your leg and in other parts of your body. That's why when I gave that advice at the beginning of the mite part of the Tripping Sponge series, I talked about that. You can feel them hit you. They'll talk to each other. Dust mites talking to fungus mites, talking to wood mites, talking to ear mites, talking to lung mites, talking to spider mites, talking to... They all get along fine. They get along just fine. So you'll feel them when they're talking to each other, communicating with each other, because they're doing it electrically when they're the electromites. The biomites, I don't believe they do communicate that way, but the electromites do. The electromites, and I'll also assume the nanomites, which some electromites and some nanomites that have hybrid, they're hybrid mites, and they've gone into these combination mites, and they don't do the same exact things. They'll do things that both a fungus mite might do, and a spider mite might do, and a dust mite might do. And you have to look for the familiarities in them to appreciate the hybrid end of it. Okay. Stealing this out from underneath the medical industry is a no fucking brainer. The medical industry admits to not even knowing about or understanding at least 10,000 breeds of mite. Okay? So me to take the name and change the name on them, fuck them. They leave the medical industry behind us and let's move on. They're all there just to fuck us all up. And I have to guess that if I was in the medical industry, I would have noticed this shit long time ago. But just like somebody who's an accountant may not want to admit that everybody that they work for is fraudulent, and just like the you know, myself, my own personal experience on that is I myself didn't want to admit certain frauds just in the maintenance business, right? You don't want to admit these things to yourself. And when you start to see them, you're like, ah, shit, you know, it's everything's set up against everybody, you know, the whole system, you know, renting apartments. I'm just talking about, you know, renting, real estate and shit. It's all bullshit, man. The whole fucking system is a scam. But I don't have time to go down every fucking road. You know, that's for everybody else to do as we start getting visual on all this. As everyone gains visual, it'll get better and better and better, and then we can move forward, and then everybody can just take a chunk of this. For time being, you're gonna have to deal with me on the mite issue and the nanocarbon. Because the nanocarbon, the electromagnetic nanocarbon, I have visual on all the imagery, I have visual on the carbons, I can explain a good portion of what I'm seeing. So I'm just gonna have to deal with it until others come along that are better equipped to take over these certain parts of all this, you know, and honestly do it, you know, like Patrick's doing right now. Patrick's been being honest about everything that he's saying. So is Rick. Rick was honest about everything he was saying. Patrick looks like in the future he might be a little bit more willing to, you know, do a little bit more as far as sharing this with others, where Rick is not really interested in doing any of that. He's just fine with knowing for himself what he knows, and that's it. Hello? Oh my god, fucking predators, man. Anyways, so I'm just making some research. Vince, I might throw the... Oh, look at that. I see they're clearing it out pretty good. This is what I'm saying. Compared to yesterday, what we seen yesterday for clouds, the imagery was much more collaged. Now it's more broken up. It's becoming more clear sky. It was doing it last night, and then it looked like they were pushing through some colors. That's why I put the camera on earlier, because they were pushing some colors through. But they might just be coming through and sending them... they were headed east, remember? I was doing a video out, they were headed southeast. So something over that way was going to end up getting a storm or something. I didn't go far. So now, because of the way the sky is, I might even come more towards the horizon with my camera in order to pick up the imagery a little more clear. Yeah, I think it's going to be a waste. Other than to point out the fact that the imagery is all pushing out. You know, it's getting less and less. I'll let it go. It's only another 5 minutes anyway. I'll grab a coffee and then shut it out. I won't. I was talking so much I didn't realize the time was fucking flying by. Yeah, so I'll do a couple more videos on the moon stuff to show Patrick. He's got 2 spots actually. I don't know if I'll have time to do both because it'll take me a few parts to get through them all. Because like I said, because you eyed onto the larger images, they're full images, they take up 3/4 of the moon. Half to 3/4. By the time we get done with every angle, 3/4. So, therefore, inside that one image that you pointed out, inside that, around that, part of that, I'll lead up to hundreds of images on the large scale, and then when we get down to the mediums, then there's thousands of them, and then the smaller ones, there's, I don't even know, I'd guess tens of thousands. Yeah, I'm going to have some fun talking about the Metellus. The Metellus I've been experiencing all my life and didn't even realize it. And what happened was, once I got onto the cures of them for this, then over the last couple of years here, once I got onto the BioCures and then now the electromagnetic cures, because even when I started with the magnets, I was using large magnets and it was unnecessary. What was going on is you have too much of a large kill off all at once, and I'm going to have to be specific about all that when we get into talking about that over the next couple of days, because you don't want that either, unfortunately. It sounds good, but unless you're really eating properly and drinking properly the right stuff, which I'll show you guys what it is, and you can continuously push them out, then fine. You know, if that's going to be a daily routine of getting them all out of you on a daily basis, but you don't want to have too much of a pileup, especially the coconut oil too, because now that I learned what the coconut oil enlarges the mites and blows them out. That's how it kills them, like the magnet does. The magnet blows them out, so starting from within the center, and then they blow outward, in other words. But they don't explode. Their body doesn't explode. Not that I can see anyway. They don't break into little particles or anything like that from the magnets. Just their inners explode. Spontaneous combustion sound familiar? That's what happens with them under the magnets. Is spontaneous combustion, kind of. That's what it sounds like. What's happening? Then the coconut oil, what it does is it blows them up. They drink the coconut oil, and then they get really large real fast before they die. Some of them are at all different sizes. So some of them just get a little bit larger than died, and the other ones get really, really big and die. But it seems pretty noticeable to me that that's what's going on with the mites, and it's several different mites so far. So the dust mite, the fungus mite, the spider mite, they're all blowing up with coconut oil. You would think they'd run. I thought they were running from it and they didn't like it. It's not what's happening with them. So they're running, but I don't know if they're running just to get out of the tight spot they're in because they're getting bigger, or if they can't help but to drink it. I don't know. But all I know is that's what seems to be happening so far. So I want to talk about all that shit, and then the combination mixtures of the potions and shit like that. Good shadows over that way. We got a yellow in there. Go to the blue. See, days like this are good for blue sky, for using the blue filter, because there's no blue sky coming through, like I keep saying. So that's why I like doing the blue filter on a day like this. Yeah, I want to go do overviews on Patrick's videos too, because I really liked what he did with the belt and the bracelets and shit like that's a great idea because the magnets are working. The magnets are working even without the electronic pulses. The magnets, for me anyways, and they seem to be working on the cats. I told everybody about a week or two back I was gonna start doing that with the cats, and I'm testing them. So both cats are being bio-treated because they were both scratching and I seen them both itching. And yeah, they're part of the story. The cats are part of the story too, because when I look back over the years and stuff like that, I see all the different times. It's just different Metallus at different times of life that was creeping up on me throughout my life, and it goes for everybody. You know, I just noticed that it's funny that you know, so while I'm working on the Metallus, I'll point this out too. It's just like finding a nanocarbon. Everybody is in such denial about it. That's the whole point of trying to change the terminology. That's why the terminology for the chemtrails, I keep saying, has to be changed. And it can't go to another PSYOP name. You can't go to, you know, heavy metal aerosols, and you can't go to, you know, there's going to be a name. I gotta change that. I gotta change that one too. Since I did such a great job on Metallus, because I like that a lot, Metallus. So then when you say biometallus, you're like saying, I'm gonna go look at it in writing, but it almost spelled out. It's like by the lies or some shit like that. I'm gonna have to go look at it in writing. I'm just thinking out loud. But the same thing has to be done with some of these other PSYOP shit, you know? The whole flat earth thing. I'm gonna do that. You know that? As much shit as I got going on, since nobody else is fucking jumping in with any suggestions, I'm gonna fucking rename the whole flat earth movement. I'm gonna give it a new name. I'm gonna think of something clever. And I'm also gotta put another name on these chemtrails. The chemtrail shit's gotta go. They're not condensation trails. People out there in the conspiracy world are calling them condensation trails still. Oh my god. You know, that's the fucking stupid, man. So yeah, that's got to be done. And seeing that it's not only heavy metals, then I should not be calling them heavy metal aerosols, because it's not only heavy metals. There are a lot of other minerals being thrown into this. I don't want to even include their words unless I can cleverly get them to still be used. And also at the same time, it's got to diss the old name. So even mineral trails won't work. You know, I don't want the word trails in there unless I can change it. I got to change it all. I'll think about it. Yeah, seeing the chickens bring in one type of mite, and finding out that chickens are actually a different bird mite than a regular bird mite. Not understanding for all these years that these mites are actually want to go live on humans, and it was right in front of me. I'm going to take you guys back to I already started downloading the properties, so I have pictures of the properties that I worked at and shit. I won't name their names because I don't want to have to delete the videos or anything later. So I don't have any problems, I won't do that. But just so you have visual on what I'm talking about. But over the years, I mean, I think back to one place that every summer we would have a major outbreak in complaints, and we were shampooing people's carpets for free and washing their curtains and stuff for free, because we would have this wood chips all dumped in around the buildings, around the bushes and the flowers, and then the flower guy would come in and do his flowers everywhere. So there was always this conflict about, did they come from the wood chips? Were they already there from the wood chips from 3 years earlier, and the eggs were already in the wood chips? We had possible, because you know, when it gets that big and you're spending all that money, a management company, they want to know who's responsible. They don't want to have to foot the bill on all this shit. So the contractor, I remember one season, he was able to prove without a doubt that his wood chips did not contain them. So that meant that it was the wood chips from several seasons before, because we hadn't done the chips the year before, and the manager thought that she was going to get away with blaming this guy because, you know, we didn't have the chips put down the year before, because 3 years earlier, I should say, from that time, we did have an issue. So she didn't want to have an issue again. She was kind of afraid to even have wood chips put around. Then when the guy came and did it, we had the problem again. So she was blaming, you know, him. So he was able to prove that it wasn't him, which was pretty simple. Just going back to his sending the lab over to his company and showing where his pile that he gets his shit out of and didn't contain that. So that means they were living there in the ground for all that time, and they survived winter after winter for over the years. Every time this happened, never really had a because we had them sprayed. You got to remember, oh my god, before we started shampooing carpets and doing all that shit, we were spraying everything. The flower guy was getting pissed because we were killing his fucking flowers. So his flowers were dying, the bushes were dying, but the mites were not dying. These were wood mites. But here's the part I never thought about. I never thought about this before. The only reason we were getting complaints about the fucking wood mites is because they were biting the humans. Animals were getting them, the humans were getting them. We were trying to blame it on the animals. You know, we were blaming it on people's cats, and we were blaming it on bed bugs. We had new tenants that moved in, and we were saying, oh, it must be a bed bug population. We better clear the building and do the usual bed bug routine. Sure enough, nobody can find any bed bugs. No bed bugs. You know, couldn't find them. The only time the mites were even visible is when they got really big. Now, I'm going to assume that was a biomite, the ones that were getting that large. Now, if I'm able to blow up the electromites to the size where I can see them with my eyes real good by using the coconut oil, then I'm wondering, can we do the same thing with the nanomites? Can we blow up the nanomites with the coconut oil and then now be able to see them under the microscope? I wonder. Because if they're blowing up like that using that coconut oil, I might have even had visual on them in the past and didn't even know it. On nanomites. I just didn't know what they were, because I was feeding them the coconut oil thinking, okay, it's working, or it's killing them. But the only thing is, I didn't know, you know, how or why it was killing them. Now I'm learning that, you know. Or at least I'm learning how. I still am not sure why. Something in the coconut oil. You know, someone was writing and asking questions about that. But there's a lot of variables that are going to come into play, you know. That's why there's a few things that I want to get out there right away. So I want to do at least 4 or 5 parts of the series right now in the next few days about the Metalis, the Biometalis, Electrometalis, and Nanometalis. And the safety precautions that need to be taken, and to get ahead of it, because the coconut oil, you cannot drink the fucking coconut oil by the gallon. You'll have kidney failure and you're gonna feel like shit real fast. It'll happen real fast. Within a week or two you'll be in the hospital. So, you know, you don't want to do anything stupid, but you do want to start coating your blood slowly over the next couple of years with this coconut oil. So you have to do it in small doses, you know, a little bit in your food here and there, a little bit, you know, talking a quarter of a teaspoon, a half a teaspoon, you know, here and there. Not, you know, not even a daily routine. I cannot recommend that to anybody, because the long-term results I'm not even sure of on that, you know, if you do everything too fast like that. So that's why I'm recommending, as far as an oral goes on that coconut oil, take it easy on it, because if it is blowing them all up, it is definitely blowing them up. You can go see that for yourself. You can run some tests on them, and you'll see. So you don't want to do that if it's happening on a nano size either, and have all those dead nanocells in your body. You're going to want to push them out. So that one's got to be talked about a little more further in detail. Lots of things. The other one is the application of the. Now again with my wording, one of them starts with a P, one of them starts with a D. Peloton, I want to pronounce it. Peloton, something like that. All right, those ingredients that are in the lice killers, the larvae killers, the ear mite killer, egg killer. All right, so there's those two ingredients. Well, some people caught them in a larger doses, and I didn't even realize that. Though I know those jugs that Patrick was showing, and I didn't realize that it had 1% of that in it. So if that has 1% in it, that might be better than using the flea and tick one. I have to look at that when I get home, because if Patrick found that, that means the one lice bottle that I had the one with the P word, I'll call it, so I don't have to try to waste time pronouncing it, and the other one had the D word. And if that's the case, that means I just missed it. I didn't read the other bottles. I was just figuring that was the only place I was going to get that ingredient, was from that particular NYX lice topical. And he pulled the other bottle that comes in that box. I never looked at it before. So that'd be great, because then we can go up to a 1%, and we don't have to go down in the pet aisle in order to get it, because that's all it's going to matter is just that, and then once that absorbs into your skin. Okay, so with that said, I recommended in the last series 1 drop of those things, 1 drop, 2 drops here and there. That's because it's a recommendation. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys how much I put in, so that you'll have a more clear understanding of that.